Hi, this is Naroki5. I am going to be doing this until I die or I find something better to do. So please help me achieve this personal and, I think, noble objective by contributing to my Patreon or Subscribestar. Link is down below. Every little bit helps. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Red Pill Nation Hangout 358. I am your brave and fearless host, Naroki5, with me tonight, and the only person, by the way, who's with me tonight, Rierson, who was the man who secretly controlled the results of the Super Bowl today to through alien telekinesis to allow the Kansas City Chiefs to win the Super Bowl today over the San Francisco 49ers in overtime, I might add. So, Rierson, introduce yourself.
Yeah, those telekinetic waves came out of my ass because that's where the aliens like to probe the most. And I didn't enjoy it. Ever. No gimp suits, no ball gags. So I have to go to the bathroom. Back to you.
But don't forget your Orange Man hand bomb. And you know what? I will discuss it off the air. I got a strange idea with deep fakes. I'm gonna have to find that link Kelso sent me. Every time I see somebody on, every time I see somebody on Twitter spurging out about Donald Trump, I'm gonna make a special Orange Man hand bulb commercial just for that individual.
Well, you've got the tools available now. I mean, he lays it out as to what he uses and how it kind of works or how it doesn't work. So,
well, I mean, if they're going to tweet like obsessively about Trump, right? We might as well have Donald Trump endorse the tweets. Oh God, I'm rubbing my palms together just thinking about it. Okay, so
was not for you.
So yeah, for those of you who don't know, I am at Patreon as Naroki5. I'm gonna have to follow through on my Subscribestar when I get back into town here. I'm at Subscribestar as the Red Pill Nation. I am also at Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, YouTube, MGTOW TV, Facebook, Mind, Gab, MeWe, TLB Talks, and Getter. Don't do the posting runs like I used to, but I mean, I will sort of start doing limited runs here when I get back into town, just to kind of like build up some interest on one of the platforms. But yeah, I am officially up to 10 subs on YouTube now. Not bad when you consider that I have not so much as lifted a finger to promote my YouTube content anywhere at any time. So yeah, if you know how that works, get back to me. You can tell me exactly how it is you found my content on YouTube, because like I said, I don't do anything to promote my YouTube content, not anymore. I'm going completely separate away from YouTube now. YouTube can go to hell. In fact, we're actually going to be covering YouTube as the last topic tonight. So anyway, the topics tonight. As we talked about, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs for winning the Super Bowl. I'm also going to hopefully that the kid who was caught up in that fake race incident about a month or two back is now suing Deadspin. And yeah, that should be a very interesting project. That's topic 0. Topic 1, Tucker Carlson interviews Vladimir Putin. Oh my God, the fallout on that. We are going to be doing a particular special on that. We are also going to be doing a show probably Thursday or Friday on Canada content as well. But yeah, we'll see. Topic number 2, Gina Carano suing Disney with Elon Musk backing her legal bills. Ooh, Bob Iger, you were a bad boy. You should have left Elon Musk alone. And that brings me over to topic number 3. Is Elon Musk teaming up with Nelson Peltz to buy Disney? Yeah, that one is a very interesting topic. Topic number 4. Joe Rogan and Spotify exclusivity. Topic number 5. U.S. bomb targets of Iranian proxies in Syria and Iraq. And topic number 6 is the YouTube section. YouTube gets caught by Jordan Peterson. The 2 topics are YouTube gets caught by Jordan Peterson burying his name in an autofill function. And the last topic, which I think is really special, YouTube threatens Louis Rossmann over GreyJay, and it backfires immediately. Like immediately. Yeah, that one's gonna be very interesting. But let's just get into it. Let me just timestamp here. So, congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs for actually winning a Super Bowl. That was surprisingly, apparently, quite entertaining, although I didn't really see very much of it. The only thing I can actually honestly say about the Super Bowl, other than the fact that it was probably was a very interesting one to watch, was that there was, I was almost in the same category as Rearson in the solidly in the do not give a fuck about the Super Bowl thing until there was, and this was especially bad on Facebook. You just started seeing massive simpage, and I do mean massive simpage for Taylor Swift everywhere on Facebook, right? You had these random SJWs posting up stuff, and of course, when you accuse them of being a simp, they would never respond. And I'm like, I couldn't really. We've only covered Taylor Swift once on this show, and that was about her Man video, which was just an atrocious fucking video. Not her singing, but the video itself. And, the whole thing, like the way that they tried to get in on their holy high horse and wave their finger around because people don't like Taylor Swift, and they don't like Taylor Swift for multiple reasons, right? Like, she's a total fucking globalist stooge. That would probably sum it up perfectly with her. But like, shoving Taylor Swift in my face was enough to kind of turn me off of the Kansas City Chiefs, although I'm not a big fan of the 49ers either. It was an entertaining game. Now, in that same token, though, and I was not going to include this, but Rearson reminded me of it just before we started the show, so I decided to add it as topic 0. That kid who was accused of being a racist because he was apparently wearing blackface during a Chiefs game, and Deadspin, Karen Phillips in particular, decided to cherry pick a shot of the kid where only the black side of his face was shown, and then use that to basically they picked a random kid out of a crowd of people at a football game, and they tried to demonize the kid for no other reason than they could. Karen Phillips got caught doing it. He has doubled tripled down. Deadspin has remained quote and quite literally dead silent on the issue. They could have gone out ahead and they could have said, oops, yeah, we're sorry, we made a mistake. But they didn't do it. And Karen Phillips just kept doubling down to the point where I'm guessing the family just decided, you know what, I pretty much had it with your bullshit. And they're suing Deadspin. Now, Deadspin, sorry, Gerson, who owns Deadspin?
It appears to be a spin-off of oh shit, I fucking forget. Not Gizmodo, but whoever owns Kotaku and the whole frickin' bit. My apologies for not silencing myself here. We'll leave Gawker. That's what it is. G-O-G/O Media. G-O-M. Deadspin, previously owned by Gawker Media and Univision Communications, is currently owned by G-O Media. Deadspin posted daily previews, recaps, and commercial commentaries of major sports stories, as well as sports-related anecdotes, rumors, and videos, which is right up the alley of this lawsuit waiting to happen. Just my opinion. I could be wrong. So, back to you, my friend.
Yeah, so, I mean, yeah. Gawker Media, if those of you who weren't around for Gamergate, Gawker was, and this was actually this is something that me and Nihilist used to talk about on the MGTOW Master series, which I kind of miss doing with him. But I'm not gonna get into the details about that. The issue with Gawker Media is that, and this is something that was happening for a while on the Manosphere forums. You would get these guys coming into the Manosphere forums and would start trolling. And it was very, very obvious that they were there to troll, and they weren't particularly good at it. Well, apparently Sam Biddle, when he was during the height of Gamergate, which would have been about 2014, 2014, 2015, he literally hired a group of infiltrators to go onto Pro Gamergate site and stir up controversy. And what ended up happening, though, is that these people were so bad at their jobs, they had so little idea about how to infiltrate an internet group like that they didn't, like, they were being spotted like most of the time before they even got into it, and the whole project just fell apart. Sam Biddle, I believe, also got sued by Hulk Hogan because Sam Biddle exposed Hulk Hogan for something that wasn't true. And Hulk Hogan, and which is kind of funny because it's exactly what Elon Musk is doing with Gina Carano right now. And somebody else that Sam Biddle had exposed decided to pay all of Hulk Hogan's or Terry Bollea's legal bills, and Hulk Hogan won the lawsuit. So yeah, Hulk Hogan being Terry Bollea. So the whole thing, like, Gawker, and keep in mind, this is 2014, 2015. So this is almost 10 years ago. So, I mean, knowing how companies turn staff over, there's probably only maybe 2 or 3 people left at Gawker Media that know about who remember what happened with Gawker Media, because Sam Biddle had to sell it, basically. So there's only a couple people who in that whole company who actually remembered what happened around that. And now they're getting sued again. And of course, they did the exact same thing that they did the last time around. Like they just can't. Somebody in the company should have reminded them this is what they went through with Hulk Hogan, right? Karen Phillips just refuses to acknowledge what happened right in front of his face. He's been shown that he's wrong, and he keeps doubling down in Deadspin instead of pulling him in and saying, Karen, like, please be quiet, please shut up. Just quietly call them and apologize, and it'll be done. Nope. They went dead silent. So, what eventually happened is that after giving Deadspin and Karen Phillips enough time to by the way, that's Caron Phillips, not Karen Phillips. But he is a Karen who's a Karen. I should point. He obviously.
This is one of those times that male, female, it's optional.
Yeah.
Because he's acting like a Karen. Just saying.
So yeah, he's he's done it to himself. I have zero sympathy for Karen Phillips. I have zero sympathy for Deadspin, especially since Deadspin was not the direct recipient of what Hulk Hogan was targeting the company that owned them for, but there must have been some people who were still around at that company who remembered what happened with Sam Biddle when Hulk Hogan sued that company into oblivion the first time, and it's going to happen again. And it's just like, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over and over again and expecting different results. And here we are. So the people who are running the company are insane. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
I think that we at the time had speculated that, like there's just so much that is potentially going to backfire on this whole thing that no amount of money is going to be worth this trouble. I don't know how else to say it. Again, this was all for clickbait, and yeah, sure, you got your name out. Karen, whatever you want to call yourself. Although the way that I hope that my speculation on the outcome of this will be, you're going to get spanked. And not in maybe any way that you like. I don't know. Don't know you. Don't want to know you. But the family's got you guys dead to rights, which is feeling no different than we're going to talk about Gina Carano tonight and her upcoming trial with Disney. Had you kept your mouth shut, you'd be okay. Had you realized, and well, if it wasn't for your ego, this may not hurt, my opinion, as much. Now, I could be wrong. I'm probably going to be right. But the speculation that Naroki and I had was that this was going to be headed for a trial because you didn't do your homework. You cherry-picked the photos that you wanted. I don't know where you live. I don't care where you live. I don't know what your attitude towards football is or sports in general, but you obviously must enjoy it. But at some point, you must have known that you... And that's when he realized he fucked up. And by the time that point comes through in the court, and I won't be upset when I expect that you're going to get sued. And I I wouldn't be the least bit surprised that the family was reaching out to apologize, and you and or Deadspin Geo Media kept your damn mouth shut. So you know what? If you're in it for the clicks, well, how does the saying go? Oh yeah, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. So there will be no fucks given, at least on my part. And while I'm not going to speak for Naroki, I'm pretty sure I do speak for him. No fucks given. So that's all I'm going to say, my friend. We're pretty much on the same boat in this one, just slightly different viewpoints.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, it's just like,
if you're in the wrong, if you're in the wrong, swallow your pride and take a couple of steps back and say, you know what, I think I fucked up, and issue an apology. But I think that's what the biggest problem is the issue of issuing of an apology.
Well, I mean, his
we'll
ego.
We'll wait for Gina Carano. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, it's like, here's the thing about this, and this is something that I'm noticing, because, like, you're starting to see them, like, for instance, while you were talking, some idiot on Twitter posted up a fake poll claiming that the liberals were solidly out front, and it's like, it took me all you got to do is go to 338 Canada, and you can see how the polls are, what the polls are actually like, but
sorry,
I mean,
okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here a little bit. 338 Canada is
338 Canada is a site that keeps track of polls. It keeps track of all of the aggregate polling for Canada in terms of
if an election was held today.
If an election was held today, yeah, and like, I mean, like what you've been seeing on, and this is, I mean, we're kind of getting off track here, but I mean, what you're going, and when we get into the Tucker Carlson stuff, you will see. There's been lots of examples of this online and then on Twitter in particular, where people have been just saying, where they've just been saying, it's like, oh well, Tucker's this and Tucker's, I mean, you're getting people on Twitter, like X, like literally trained they must be trained liberal seals. That's the only, or bogus accounts, or just incredibly stupid and willfully ignorant people, because it's like they just say it and just hope that nobody fact checks. And it's like as if saying it is just going to somehow make it happen all by itself, right? And it's like, it's the same thing with this dude. It's like, yeah, dude, you got caught dead to rights. You will actually look like a decent human, like a more decent human being, if you admit that you just fucked up. But no, you can't fucking do that, right? So what's going to happen in particular? What's going to happen with the transgender community first? Because they're just like going right off the fucking deep end. With some of the stuff that I saw around the Super Bowl this year, they actually, like, at one point, and I saw this on Instagram, was they were talking about gay pride during the Super Bowl, and I said, what the fuck does Super Bowl have to do with gay anything? Right? But they had it, right? It was like, why are you doing this? You're doing this, why? Oh yeah, that's right, BlackRock, ESG, that type of thing. And it's like, but I mean, it's slowly turning against them. Like, what I'm also starting to see, and this is happening at the community level, is that if BlackRock goes in, because one of the big things that BlackRock has been doing is that they've been buying up huge swaths of housing in cities in North America, and then not selling them again and just using them as rental properties. what's starting to happen is that people are starting to get smart to that. And if they find out that a company that's owned by BlackRock is attempting to do this, they're actually starting to fight them to prevent them from doing this. So I mean, it's slowly turning against them there, and it's like it's going to eventually turn on Black Lives Matter and race grifters. Like it's gonna go, and of course they'll never admit they screwed up. But I mean, right? Like the amount of damage that's being done right now. I mean, especially with corporations, right? Like there's really only two possibilities here with corporations. The corporations are either going to smarten up of their own accord. They don't. A lot of them won't ever admit they made a mistake. Like fucking Bud Light has still not fucking admitted that they screwed up. By the way, they just pretend like that whole thing with Dylan Mulvaney never happened, except it did. They're either going to smarten up and move the fuck away, and they are probably going to have to do some type of legislation to prevent this type of social conditioning that BlackRock has been taking part in. They're going to have to do some stuff against BlackRock, specifically like break it up or something like that, to prevent them from doing stuff like that again. Or these companies, what they're going to do is they're just going to, it's like, because even BlackRock does not have unlimited money. You're going to see, in fact, you already are seeing the rise of a parallel economy. And these companies, a lot of them are just going to go bankrupt, or they're going to be greatly reduced. So which is what, by the way, is happening with Disney. And, like getting back to the original point, one of the things about this point today is that, the way the Super Bowl was handled this year, like it was severely botched. They should have fucking just not even touched the Taylor Swift stuff. The fact that they had to go and blitz social media and the news about this. I mean, even if it was just, there's only two possibilities here. Either A, Taylor Swift got her ego bruised, which is very possible because of all the of all the artists out there, the most self-absorbed, the most narcissistic performers that I've ever come across have been the musicians. Or the NFL. Somebody at the NFL thought it would be a really good idea to jump on the Taylor Swift train and post a bunch of stuff to kind of hype the Super Bowl. Now, fortunately for them, the Super Bowl was actually quite interesting this year. But just the same, though, what they did around Taylor Swift just kind of killed the interest for me. And the NFL, like every other corporation in the league, the NFL cannot continue to do what it's doing and remain financially viable. And with that, unless Bruce has anything to say, we will get on to the next topic.
No, not really. As for Swift, fuck, whatever. So let's get into it.
Okay, so this one, and we will be, like I said, we will be doing a specific review of the Tucker Carlson Vladmir Putin interview. One of the people who posted up at MGTOW TV said, I mean, in his response to it was, yeah, they cannot have even somebody who's been booted off of Fox. They can't have somebody who's a mainstream reporter going against the narrative. That's the reason why they're freaking out. Funny, I found it very ironic that the Biden administration and people in Washington, D.C. were suddenly concerned with border security in trying to prevent Tucker Carlson from coming back into the country after he had interviewed with Putin than before. And to quote this one guy who posted up on at my MGTOW TV site, Tucker Carlson broke the narrative, right? Now he's made the establishment media, which is something that we talked about this when he moved over to Twitter. We said, yeah, we're going to find out what Tucker Carlson's true colors are like once he goes to Twitter. Well, now we're finding out. Tucker is probably feeling a lot less restricted and a lot freer to express the opinions and to do the type of journalism that he wanted to do. Kudos to Fox, because at least all Fox did was stay quiet. Like, they didn't say anything one way or the other. The Young Turks, of course, took the most epic, stupid take they could possibly take. Speaking of which, Shank's nephew, Hassan Piker, will probably be on 360. And I won't get into why he is going to be on 360 because the story came out this week and I just ran out of space. But yeah, it's a very interesting topic, and it ties in because we've discussed Hassan Piker before. You had the freak out for the mainstream media, and also, again, and this is the thing about, yeah, okay, I get it. Some of you don't like Twitter, and yeah, I can hardly blame you for it. But what you see on X, formerly Twitter, is you see propagandizing on a large scale. The Twitter algorithm X algorithm is currently set up so that if you get angry or upset, if you respond to somebody that gets you angry or upset, what Twitter will do is that it will continuously feed you stuff like that in your feed. So you actually get to see what the response is to Tucker Carlson. Now, there basically were two threats with Tucker Carlson. The first being that he's a traitor and that he needs to be put on trial, except, of course, that we're not actually at war with Russia, so Tucker Carlson did not commit treason. By the way, the Ukrainian government now has him on a kill list. Just thought I'd throw that in. The other thing that happened was you saw a whole shitload of people on Twitter with Ukrainian flags in their bio, like literally, like basically doing the same thing that you see the Palestinians doing on Twitter, like demanding that everybody support them or else. Like, there was a couple people who was like, if you're not pro-Ukraine, you are pro-Russia, period, end of story. And my response to him is, no, asshole. Like, I don't have to take anybody's side. Fuck off. I don't want to say, well, this is going to be one of those interviews that they're going to be talking about 100 or 200 years from now. They will definitely be talking about this interview decades down the road. Like, this is going to be one of the high watermarks for Tucker Carlson. Absolutely beyond a doubt. He did something that nobody else in the Western media had bothered to do, and if they had actually bothered to do it, like if somebody say over at NBC or ABC or CTV or one of the British channels, or even somebody in Western Europe had simply gone over and interviewed or spoken to Vladimir Putin earlier to get his side of the story, I think the U.S. would, in particular, the U.S. would have a lot more money, and they're currently trying to pass another bill inside the D.C. swamp that would send another, something like $60-70 billion to the Ukraine. And here's the thing about Ukraine, and this is something that should come as no surprise. There was a crash of a Ukrainian Air Force transport plane in I think it was Albania or Yugoslavia. The fire was so intense that they couldn't get near it, but when they did get near it, well, first of all, the entire crew was dead, but it was sort of like, yeah, like a lot of the equipment that the Americans are sending them is turning up in very odd locations, and it's the Ukrainians that are doing it. So I suspect that there's some people inside the United States are looking the other way. And of course, there's all the money laundering that's going on in the Ukraine as well. There's some people in the United States that are really benefiting off of arms sales to the Ukraine as well. Now, and I'm going to just say this because like knowing some of the fucking frayed, some of the complete NPC idiots that are out there right now. No, I don't have to take anybody's side. Am I fooled by Vladimir Putin, or am I somehow wooed in by him because I'm actually praising Tucker Carlson? No, I'm not. There's definitely some reservations about Putin. Prigozhin's mysterious death is the most immediate thing that comes to mind. But if you go back far enough, you go back into the early 90s and late 80s, there's stuff about Putin and some of the stuff that he did when he was serving in Dresden. I mean, Putin is not a nice individual, but however, there was one thing that I am quite grateful for, and Putin did end the COVID scare. That is something that he had to invade Ukraine to do it, but he did end the COVID scare. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rierson.
There's a couple of things I actually learned from that interview, and that being Ukrainian meant that you were on the fringe. You were on the outskirts of society, or at the time as it was the empire. And it wasn't until, well, we'll get into that. Thank you for bringing up the fact that he's on a hit list, which is fully supported by some 3-letter agency within the US of A. And my feeling is that I don't know what happened with Carlson. He doesn't wear the bow tie anymore, so I question who he is. Now, I realize that this is all in terms of optics and the like, but he doesn't wear the bow tie anymore like he did before. So now he wears the suit and pants. Suit, shirt, pants, whatever you want to call it. And, but, I mean, Barbara Walters had interviewed Putin. No one batted an eyelash. There were one or two other journalists when journalism was, well, let's call it for what it is, folks. When journalism was a lot more staged. No one cared. The fact that Carlson seems to be the tip of the spear, I suppose, in terms of this is where there's a differentiation between Carlson and O'Keefe, James O'Keefe of OMG O'Keefe Media Group, where the two are tips of the spears, but one is more subtle than the other. Carlson is more to get the immediate attention, this is my opinion, of something that needs to be spoken about. I mean, again, he came through Calgary, he was in Alberta, and kicked up a frickin' storm over in Ottawa, oh, I've been targeted by hate speech. It's like, no, you've been fucking called out, you dumb shit. You know that, but you're just you are just of a bad actor as is your immediate visible boss. Trudeau being a drama teacher at some point in his life and also a part-time snowboard instructor. No doubt he probably still likes to smoke quite a lot of pot. Given the shit he's going through, I'd be doing the same thing myself. I just prefer to resort to alcohol, which I've had some already tonight, and I'll be a little more entertaining because of it. But I've gotten through at this point I'm about 2/3 of the way through, and I've looked into enough of what was said by Putin, who I'm going to say this again, and I'm going to provide some screenshots, but the guy that was interviewed by Carlson is not the Putin from 2010. Sorry, folks, but can I completely get behind this guy? I think the person that's in there right now is an actor. And again, I remember in 2014, 2015, Putin's ex-wife had basically said, "This is not the man that I married. I don't know who this guy is." And she slept on the couch, and they both agreed to divorce. And his reply to her divorce is like, "Well, I don't find you attractive either." So for me, this has all been very interesting. And my opinion, take this however you will, is that this is an opportunity to start to wake people up in the rest of the world. If I have to go back to a coworker, and she's from Western Ukraine, which I've heard within the conspiracy theories, the alt channels and whatnot, is that Ukraine is going to get broken up. It will be absorbed into Russia from the east, Poland from the north, and Hungary from the west. And I won't be the least bit surprised. I mean, it came up that Hunter Biden is apparently the co-owner of one of the many biolabs in Ukraine. So it's been nothing but propaganda after propaganda after propaganda. And I am going to say this again. My grandfather had said at one point, where was he born? He was born in what was, at the time, Poland. So that would have been the early 1900s. Now it's in Ukraine, and now, given Ukraine has a complex, that's all I can say. In terms of all of this with this interview, I find it fascinating, and given that Russia right now is part of BRICS, and they're the ones that are in charge of it now for whatever is left of their 1-year term, I'm not going to be the least bit surprised that shit's going to really get fucking interesting. But we'll get to that when we get to that, if we even cover it at all. So it's, I don't know. This to me is the beginning of how insane 2024 is going to be. So strap down, strap in, or no strap-ons. Thank you, Disney. And buckle, because this is but the beginning of what's going to happen for the rest of the year. So I'm sorry for going off topic, my friend. So let's move on.
Yeah, we'll be doing a much more in depth, much more.
You try that.
There's a vintage song. I'm taking out my little key, and I'm going.
Alcohol's my excuse for tonight. What's yours, Naroki? Anyway.
I'm actually a pissed off NPC. I fucked him all the way up to where he works, and I've got him bound and gagged in the closet, and I'm going to get the crap out of him. And I'm going to rail on Gina Carano now. Let's get into topic number 2.
Let's try to get a normal voice, please. Were you violated? Did somebody violate you? You just haven't told me. Just asking for a friend.
He violated my personal ethics. He's constantly. I mean, I have you know that Amber Heard is a beautiful, lovely person, and Andrea calls you a credit for
and you didn't want to do this podcast tonight. What the fuck?
Okay, so let's just get into this.
Yep,
topic.
Let's move on.
All right, I took care of the stalker here. All right, so Gina Carano is suing the ever living fuck, which is something that I think she probably should have done right from the very start. And here's the thing: it's not going to cost her a penny because Bob Iger could not fucking again, right? And when I was going through the news about this, right? I mean, there were like the mainstream media saying, "Oh, Elon Musk said a clearly anti-Semitic thing," and of course, like the thing that he said was not anti-Semitic; it was a little bit critical. But here's the thing, right? The people who decided that this was anti-Semitic was the Anti-Defamation League, and the Anti-Defamation League is also a globalist organization, and it's also what it used to be was something that made sure that the far right and the KKK weren't allowed to just say shit about the Jewish community unfettered. Back in the 70s, though, it turned into a shakedown racket, and their strategy consists of going to anybody who is critical about the Jews about anything, accusing them of being anti-Semitic, and saying, but if you pay us a certain amount, if you continue to donate to us, we won't take your side. So it's been manipulated. So the Anti-Defamation League accused Elon Musk of being anti-Semitic. They posted up something that was not anti-Semitic at all. They just said it was. And a bunch of advertisers used that as a convenient excuse to pull their stuff off of Twitter, which included Disney. And of course, I suspect that somebody in the Anti-Defamation League approached Elon Musk and said, "Nice site you got here. It would be terrible if you lost some more money. If you just give it to us, we'll retract what we said." And Elon Musk more or less told them to go fuck themselves, which is exactly what, and specifically Bob Iger to go fuck himself. Again, Twitter,
fuck yourself.
Yep. Disney has just continuously, and by the way, the racist hiring policies have also been exposed. Disney has just cannot seem to stop sticking their foot in crap. It just keeps stepping into more and more and more of it. It's like, I am legitimately starting to think that the reason why Kathleen Kennedy has not been fired is because somebody in BlackRock, there's a couple people on the board, just like what happened with Warner Brothers around Amber Heard, that are just stubbornly sticking up for her and not allowing the rest of the board to do what it is they need to do, which is fucking fire Kathleen Kennedy's ass out of Lucasfilm. It's like Kathleen Kennedy's incompetence has become so bad that it is actually starting to bleed over, and is by proxy making guys like Dave Filoni and Jon Favreau look bad too. And they actually came out with a decent TV series known as The Mandalorian. It wasn't brilliant, but it had potential. And they got upset because Gina Carano wouldn't toe the line. And what Gina Carano did is she posted up a photo on her Twitter account of a guy by the name of August Langmasser. And they took it out of perspective. If you don't know who August Langmasser is, August Langmasser, I mean, this photo's been around for years, where you have this massive group of people, and they're all giving the Hitler salute, except for this one guy who was just standing there in this crowd, absolutely defiant. And that photo, along with that Chinese kid who decided to step in front of that column of tanks, those are the two photos that are mostly used to bring up examples of courage in the face of overwhelming might. And of course, the mainstream. This is before Twitter was bought out by Elon Musk. And of course, they took it completely out of proportion, and they didn't bother to find out who August Langmasser is. And they fired Gina Carano. Not before they actually, and this is no word of a lie, they actually demanded that Gina Carano meet with employees of Disney to explain her decisions around Twitter. And of course, Gina Carano says no. And then, of course, we all know some of the stuff that Disney's done lately. They could not keep their fucking noses out of what was going on in Florida. And that incident in Florida is what cost them. Like, I mean, up until that point, they could keep going because the theme parks were actually offsetting the losses of the films that they were doing. And they weren't actually losing a lot of money on films either at that point. After the incident in Florida, all of their movies started tanking, and all their theme parks also started to. The revenue from the theme parks was not compensating for the losses they were making on the films. So now they're in financial trouble. Nelson Peltz, and we'll get into that later, is stepping in, whatever. Elon Musk is basically doing the same thing with Gina Carano. That I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who paid for Hulk Hogan, aka Terry Bollea's lawsuit against the original Gawker Media company. So Gina Carano will be able to have access to a full legal team, and she's got a very legit case against Disney, and she doesn't have to pay a penny out of pocket to do it. So Disney cannot drown her in legalese, which is a big problem, which means that Disney, there's stuff that the film industry will do to get people to back away. Like, for instance, for screenplay theft, for instance, right? What a company will do is that it will contest it in court, and they will keep contesting it and deliberately choose the most expensive options available. And what happens is the people who have a legit case of screenplay theft, they just run out of money and they just drop the case. Right? They can't do that against Gina Carano because Gina Carano is not paying for penny out of pocket. I am not sure whether this is going to go well for Disney. When it gets to the discovery phase on this, if it goes public, which I think it might, Disney is going to have to release all of the emails inside the company that were done about Gina Carano. So we will find out specifically who inside Disney was pushing for Gina Carano to be fired. If it gets to Discovery. We'll see if it does get to Discovery. I'm hoping it does. Just like that situation with Warner Brothers, where they found out that it was the president and the CEO who kept overruling the rest of the board to fire Amber Heard. Amber Heard's a beautiful person. Shut up. The person who tried to knock me out is like being a bad person. He's being naughty. So yeah. Good on Gina. It just keeps getting worse for Disney. And oh, by the way, the majority of the studios in Hollywood are going to be facing, like Warner Brothers for sure, is going to be facing similar circumstances, and the TV productions as well. Like there's a whole can of worms in Hollywood that needs to be fixed. One of the most obvious ones, and I had noticed it, but it wasn't until people started talking about it that I really paid attention to it. And I know you don't watch a lot of television. I don't watch a lot of television either, but I do watch it occasionally. And I have pointed out to people, it's like, let me know. And I actually saw a white couple tonight in a commercial. Like, the couples are either mixed race or non-white. And goddamn, CBC needs to die. But that's another topic for another day.
For another time. Yep, exactly.
That's what among the things that Gina Carano talked about was the fact that Pedro Pascal had said some very similar things and nothing had happened to him, which is also true. Anyway, with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Rierson.
Well, the fact that this was all done about 2 days before the Disney earnings call? Okay. So, yeah. I'm going to take a step back, and I think I'm pretty sure I mentioned this before, is that maybe it may have been in the podcast, may have been outside. I don't remember, but I can't remember if it was Critical Drinker or Mr. H, whoever the hell it was, or Echo Base Network. Anyway, someone on YouTube had basically looked at her tweet, and it was about 2 to 3 months ago. And the overall opinion of it was like, this is legalese for I'm going to sue. Now, I don't have the podcast linked. I'm not going to go through it, but I do very distinctly remember that being. It's one of those. Let's keep an eye out for this. And again, when Musk had put something out on Twitter of, if you feel you've been wrongly dismissed, get in touch with me, blah 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 blah. And Croner said, I think I qualify. Now, I've been fucking bitter, absolutely bitter, and I admit it, with how she was treated. Pascal could say whatever the fuck he wanted because he was part and parcel with the woke crowd, and that's what Disney liked, and because, well, Pascal's name, let's be honest, folks, it's not Caucasian sounding, it sounds kind of Latino. And given, and that was the other thing as well, too, is that with Musk, and they had this a long time ago. I'm sorry, but a whistleblower just sent this to me, a couple of hours ago, blah, blah, blah. No, they've had this information for quite a while. And the overall legal consensus among lawyers is that Disney's fucked. I mean, absolutely fucked up the ass, or twat, whatever. Just like the kids that were dropped off at Little St. James. We'll leave that alone. And since money is no object, let's be honest, I think that the legal team for Carano they're going to milk this for everything to wake people up. And I think they should. I really honestly do. When I first, I'll recap here a bit from my own personal experience of my own personal reflection of Gina Carano. Didn't know who the fuck she was. I saw her in Deadpool. I fucking hated the woman. I hated her character.
Oh, I loved her character. I loved her character.
I loved, looking back on it, I loved how she did it. I couldn't stand her actual character. When you play the villain, and you play the villain right, people are going to hate you for it. And she did a great job. She was right there. That hard ass, fucking bitch, whatever. And I can only imagine how much of a smartass Ryan Reynolds was with her in the scenes and whatever else to get her to crack up. I can only imagine what was the comical tension that was on set. So when I saw her in The Mandalorian, I went, what? You know, it was one of those, why? What the hot piping fuck? But Jon Favreau wanted her specifically, and that was it. She was the role. And she played the role very well. Cara Dune, I loved her. I really enjoyed her as a character. When her and the Mandalorian got into their tussle, and they eventually pulled their pistols and pointed at each other, kind of going, let's call it a draw. It was great. It really was great. And he grew on me very quickly. When there was the episode where she went to go get Bill Burr's character from being in a heavy-duty labor camp, whatever the case may have been. He did a great job in that capacity. And I really honestly grew to like her. I really did. And it only made sense that she would have been announced for the Rangers of the Old Republic, or the Rangers of the Republic, until she actually proved to be an actual strong, quote, independent woman, independent of the Hollywood groupthink. And now Darlene Kennedy, the old, shall we say, cosmic cunt.
The future's feminist person who would support strong, independent women wouldn't back Gina Carano. Shocker. Just like how feminists aren't backing men competing against other women in sports, how feminists, like National Organization for Women, has been mutely fucking silent on that. Oh yeah, there's no hypocrisy there, none whatsoever. Continue.
No, none at all. So, folks, you're gonna have to pardon me for calling a spade, and in the case of whatever, not a fucking shovel. Given Carano's positive reaction to South Park for the Pandaverse, I mean, this woman has been absolutely waiting to say what she needs to say. I mean, it was about a month after she got fired. She had an interview with Ben Shapiro. Again, I don't like the guy at all. And his weaselly, nasally voice, whatever else, and his fucking hamster on fucking speed.
Continue.
Exactly. Like, I'm Ben Shapiro, and I'm just gonna run you into the. Okay, dude, just slow the fuck down. Whatever you need for coffee first thing in the morning, take that as half your dose, and then throw in some decaf into your regular mix, just so that way you're not. Oh my god, fucking speed demon is what he is. But anyway. I went into watching Mando season 3 with Carano having been fired and Jon Favreau had to pull a fucking miracle out of his ass. And it was a half-baked miracle. Because here's an image I'm going to give you, Naroki, and I make no apologies for saying it, but Darlene Kennedy's leathery old mud flaps and that snail trail of slime was all over it. Now, if you need a moment to go vomit, I understand. Believe me, I've already gone through all of this, and I'm pretty sure she took that. Is it manuscript when it's first drafted and whatnot? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm having to keep down the vomit. Continue.
Well, whatever Jon Favreau gave her for, the 12 episodes, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised that she exposed herself, sat on the manuscripts, and just grounded herself all over it. Or maybe she had Leslie Headland down there. Oh, that's the other thing as well, too. Fuck! With Leslie Headland down there just because Leslie just prefers women much more than men, having been Harvey Weinstein's personal assistant, but that's another story. But in this lawsuit, Headland is actually named, I can't say it as an accomplice, but she's one of the people that's actually named in the lawsuit. And the biggest thing that Carano had said about being in this conference call with 45 other people of questionable sexuality, I'm being very polite, is that it could have come down to is like all it would take is one person to record it, share it with everybody else, and then they could pick and choose and cherry pick what she said to when she responds to a question or replies to a question, and it could just get blown way out of proportion. So, and the other thing too is that because it came down to it being a tweet, X, whatever, from Disney, basically saying that Carano's been fired for whatever reason, Disney's on the hook. Like, Disney is absolutely on the hook. Had they kept their mouth shut or rephrased it for something being more, Gina's contract is not being renewed for whatever vague reason you can think of and insert, it wouldn't come down to this. If someone has already provided Elon's legal team with all of this with Disney's discrimination hires or discrimination preferences, requirements, whatever you want to call it, I'm pretty sure that there's going to be, if there isn't already an email paper trail, it will be produced very quickly. And given the amount of chicanery, I believe is the proper word, that Disney's already involved in, well, I'm happy as a pig in shit to know that Disney is going to go down. And folks, do not be surprised that every little dirty secret that Disney is all about related to this case is going to be fully exposed. They're going to do their damnedest to bury this before it becomes a problem. But since she doesn't have to worry about legal cost, if I was her, yeah, fucking run the tab up, fuck them all. Screw them and the horse they rode in on. Now, my feeling is between her and Jon Favreau as person to person, I feel that when the dust settles, will she get her job back? Will she be
Well, you got to understand too. Her talent agency cut her when she got fired.
Yeah. Well, her talent agency dropped her like a fucking hot potato. So when she, I don't know how long this is going to take. And as far as I'm concerned, everything with Star Wars, with my going back to it all, it is going to absolutely hinge on this being in her favor and then to see what happens after. Now, what I'm about to say is pure speculation, because what happens in the mind of Elon Musk? Well, fuck, nobody knows. But given the heated debate, and he was with Peltz basically to say, well, I'm thinking about buying a new company. He's got the line of credit to buy Disney outright with what he's apparently rumored to be worth. And there's really not much that Disney can do except to basically say, hey, I'm coming in. I'm buying the majority of stock. That's going to shut all this shit down too. Will it happen? No, probably. And if it does, I'll be as happy as a pig in shit. So that way Darlene Kennedy can choke on all of the Force's female shit and everything else that she has done single-handedly to destroy Star Wars. So if you thought shit was bad and interesting at the same time before all of this, I assure you folks, it's going to get fucking interesting. We'll see what happens. I don't know yet. And I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty much a slam dunk case. And Disney is going to be taken and they're going to get their ass ridden, rightfully so, which will be enough fodder in all likelihood for the stock price to drop. Iger's going to be begging to do anything else so it doesn't go public. And I swear to God, and I pray that the Mandalorian movie is the Mandalorian and Grogu. What a fucking useless initial fucking title, but whatever. Things can change. I don't know, whatever. I could see that's going to be put on hiatus. Everything with the Acolyte, Star Wars, the Acolyte, it may not get released at all just because of how awful it's going to be. And this could be enough to devalue Disney that I don't think BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street have the capital to do any more than maybe double what they can already have for voting stock. I think that Trian is probably currently maybe at its limit. It may increase a bit, but don't be surprised if Elon comes in to basically say, yeah, I'm buying 50% of Disney stock and that's going to be it. And that's it. That's absolutely it. So the drama, everything related to all of this, the pot, the kettle, whatever you want to call it, the water isn't boiling. The water is simmering. It's starting to boil. But this is nowhere near even remotely being settled. So stick around, folks, as Disney is going to find out. Well, actually, yeah, for Disney, it is a case of fuck around and find out. And Disney's been fucking around. Now it's time to find out what they're going to get. So sorry for going on a rant, but back to you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, right? I didn't want. I broke this up into two parts for obvious reasons, and we will jump right into the next part here. And Elon Musk has taken potentially one step further and has potentially decided to team up with Nelson Peltz to buy Disney. Now, is it going to happen or not? Elon Musk has suggested that it's going to happen. Disney is in a very vulnerable position, and they did it to themselves. Warner Brothers is going to there's going to be at least one or two more other major studios in Hollywood. I mean, I didn't think of back in 2020 when this whole thing with COVID started. I mean, we knew that there were going to be the strikes. We knew that the strikes were going to happen. And they did. We knew that revenue was never going to return. It didn't. We knew that the studios were going to start to get themselves into trouble, and they did. The next step in this is that now that Disney is starting to falter, the speculation on my part comes down to which is the next studio to start to falter. I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say it's probably going to be Warner Brothers, but it could be like you're going to see at least over the next year or two, you're going to start seeing one or two of the other studios start to falter as well. I think of all of them, Warner Brothers is the one that, and maybe 20th Century Fox, which, by the way, is actually owned by Disney. Disney is probably going to have to sell off 20th Century Fox. Because they just can't. They're going to have to start selling assets off to get themselves back into liquidity. There's got to be way too much pressure on them.
I'm sorry to ask a question here, but does that include Star Wars? Because Star Wars was released under 20th Century Fox.
Well, they bought Lucasfilm, run formerly by George Lucas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
He owns the Star Wars. Yep. Yeah, 20th Century Fox just got the rights to do Lucasfilm stuff. Lucasfilm is, and I mean, the more I start to think about it, and the more I start thinking about Kathleen Kennedy's absolute total incompetence, and arrogantly acting as though she cannot be fired, and I'm starting to put two and two together here, and it's occurred to me that the people who are supporting Kathleen Kennedy on the Disney board to prevent her from getting fired are probably the assholes from BlackRock, from the big three. Those are probably, same thing happened over at Warner Brothers with what the hell, Johnny Depp's ex-wife. Fuck is her name?
Amber Heard.
Amber Heard.
I mean Heard.
Yeah. Amber Heard. We'll just call her Amber Heard. The same thing happened over there. And it's like, the way Kathleen Kennedy is acting is she's acting as though she's absolutely untouchable, right? Who's giving her that impression is probably a couple people on the board, right? You see, oddly enough, the person who most immediately springs to mind who parallels Kathleen Kennedy is Chrystia Freeland. Chrystia Freeland is strutting around like she's cock of the walk, queen shit of Turd Hill, and that she's fucking untouchable, right? That's how Kathleen Kennedy is acting. We all know who's backing Chrystia Freeland. It's probably not that big of a stretch to assume that Kathleen Kennedy doing this thing. And it's like if Peltz and Musk get together and actually do what they're going to do, but Bob Iger's got himself into some deep trouble because the revenues aren't justifying. And by the way, I do believe Disney executives actually paid themselves disproportionate bonuses this year as well.
Oh, shocker! Just like Bell Media did themselves as well, with letting go about almost 5,000 people. We'll talk about that.
letting 5,000 people go, and then giving their executives, oh yeah, good God. And of course, refusing to answer the question directly when posed to them, and of course, having the mainstream media try to tell you that 2 and 2 equals 5. I mean, do we even trust the mainstream media anymore? I mean, like Elon Musk literally called the Toronto Star. He basically said the Toronto Star is nothing but Pravda now, and I have a very hard time disagreeing with him. But getting back to the actual point in hand. Disney's in a lot of trouble. They are going to have to start selling assets. There was some talk of Apple buying up some stuff from Disney. Lucasfilm is a potential moneymaker, just not under Kathleen Kennedy. If they sold Lucasfilm off to somebody else, and that somebody else decided to go with, I don't know, the actual fucking books, as opposed to trying to reinvent the goddamn wheel, Star Wars would immediately get back on track again. And here's what I would do with Lucasfilm. I would go, okay, we're going to start with the Thrawn trilogy. I would go to Del Rey and say, find yourself a couple of authors, like good sci-fi writers, and
Timothy Zahn is all you need to start with.
You probably can get Timothy Zahn to do post Darth Kaitis, and you could get a couple of other writers to do pre stuff. And what you could do is that you could basically do 2 films a year. You could do one pre, which is you could do, or a TV series where you could build up the backstory pre Star Wars. And you could just have authors just keep writing and producing books. And this is what Disney should have done, right? Just pick up the fucking Thrawn trilogy and just follow the book timeline. People will go back to watch it. It all will be forgiven. But nope. Kathleen Kennedy has to insert herself in. Kathleen Kennedy has to send out the message. And at the same time, turn her back on the one actual strong independent woman that she did have in her company, which is Gina Carano. Like I said, she got fired. Like her choice for director on the new Star Wars movie was basically released because the board, even with the BlackRock people on board, the board said, no, we're not going to lose another $300 million on a movie. You're not going to get some unknown Pakistani director who was literally quoted as saying, I want men to be afraid of me, although there was a reason why she said that, and it had nothing to do with her being a feminist. This was on a documentary that she did, but she's never fucking directed a major film in her fucking life. And you're going to get somebody from India to do, and I'm sure there are Star Wars fans in India and Pakistan as well. But you're going to get some fucking woman from fucking Pakistan to do a Star Wars movie? Like, sorry, get the fuck out of here, right? Like, if somebody over in Bollywood wants to redo the Star Wars movies, Bollywood version, that's what I would do. I would go, okay, if I had bought Star Wars, I would go to somebody at Bollywood, say, "You want to make a Bollywood version of Star Wars? You pay us you pay us a certain amount of money to own the Star Wars rights in India. You don't get in the way when we release our Star Wars movies, but you can do Bollywood versions of it." That's what I would do. I would spread the wealth around, right? I would let the authors write the stories, and I would just follow the book timeline. And there's some people who didn't like the Thrawn trilogy. You know what? That wouldn't stop them from going to see the Star Wars movies. Not in the least. So in one form or another, Disney is either going to completely collapse and they're going to have to start selling off assets, or either a combination of Peltz, Musk, or some other people. And by the way, again, people are getting smart to BlackRock. People are getting smart to the big three, right? Companies that kowtow to the big three. We were talking about the NFL at the start of the show. It's becoming offensive. It is becoming dangerous. It is becoming twisted. And people are starting to find out about it, and they're getting a little sick and tired of the bullshit. Will Elon Musk team up with Nelson Peltz? Maybe. One thing's for sure, Elon Musk definitely does not forget when somebody has tried to slight him. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
My apologies, man. I didn't. I must have overlooked this second part to it all, but I guess in a sense, I blew my load over the whole fucking thing. But I mean, Disney's fucked up. They know they have fucked up, but let's just change the name Disney to Titanic. Iger is on the Titanic, or Disney. He's headed for that iceberg. Smart people on the ship are realizing, what the fuck is that? And much like the captain of the actual Titanic, who was incredibly loyal, as the story goes, allegedly, to Rockefeller at the time, it was to crash and burn, or to sink the Titanic, and to bring down the three most powerful people that who could have put an end to what eventually would become the Federal Reserve. This is Iger's moment of basically doing the whole damn thing with Vanguard, BlackRock, State Street to tell him what to do, and he's happy as a pig in shit. Again, Iger is allegedly regarded as being notoriously so within the current White House administration. He knew what was going to happen. My feeling is he knew COVID was going to happen, so he bailed, gave the job to Chapek, and then when the time was right, he came back in looking like a savior, and look what he jumped into. He went from the frying pan into the goddamn fucking fire. So I'm going to enjoy watching Bob Iger twist and turn and roast like a frickin' semi-alive pig. Yes, I realize what I'm saying, and the whole thing of it being incredibly ironic. Because he's Jewish, because, you don't like ham. For whatever reason or another, for the religious belief. But anyway, it's... I'm not giving Disney a fucking another cent until I see what happens with Carano. I'm not going to give Disney another fucking penny until Carano's lawsuit is finalized. And I hope they get dragged through the fucking mud for shits and giggles, to say the least. And I'm going to have to save up because I want to meet Carano for a photo op with an autograph signing. And you're going to love this. Now, I know you didn't, I'm pretty sure you didn't play Mass Effect 2. And if you did, that's fine. But there's a Scottish guy that's in the crew of the New Normandy. And he says, we're going to kick it. We're going to kick them in the daddy bags. I want to go in. I want to inflate two balloons, 2 gold balloons. One's labeled daddy, the other one's labeled bags. It's like, I want to go in with a with a mask of Bob Iger. It's like, Gina, please, just, I know you want to do this, so I'm just going to hang these 2 down here. I'm going to point at the camera, and I want you to just to go through the motions of a kick, just right about there, touch the daddy bags, and just take a snap picture. And it's like, and have this for your own fun. Oh my God. Yes, folks, I know. I'm a little bit twisted. I'm a little bit sick. And you know what? I wouldn't change myself for the world. So I'll leave it on that and let's move on.
Yes, let's. Okay.
Did that leave a rather interesting impression with you?
Yes, it did.
Was it
Okay.
for the better or worse? Okay. Anyway,
it's neither here nor there. Okay. So the next topic. Not Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan signed a new deal with Spotify, this time for $250 million. And he can now post up at iTunes and some of the other sites. Effectively, what that has done is that it has made Joe Rogan literally unkillable. If you remember some of the stuff that was done to Joe Rogan in this past contract, there was at least 1, maybe 2 separate times where, and they were both, I think they were both orchestrated by a certain big 3 trust fund, mutual fund corporations, who, by the way, have members on the board and were probably pushing quite hard on the board to get rid of Joe Rogan, despite, and this is part of the reason why I think why the person on the board paid that much money. Like, had Joe Rogan only been paid, say, $20 or $30 million to acquire his rights, Spotify probably could have soaked up the loss and moved on. But the CEO of Spotify had enough brains to sign a $100 million deal, which meant that any type of organized protest against Joe Rogan would have to be so overwhelming that, that Spotify wasn't going to be able to just, like, it would require Spotify to really eat their words in order to lose that. Like, $100 million would have been a big hit for Spotify. And this is what I was talking about, how people are starting to get, this is what they were trying to do with Rumble earlier this year. They were trying to get somebody on the board of Rumble, or 1 or 2 people on the board of Rumble, so that they could start doing the same type of censorship at Rumble that they do at YouTube, right? It wasn't successful because the CEO over at Rumble knew what the hell was going on and put the kibosh on it. Now, the whole thing with this is the new deal was worth even more. So now, nothing short, even a full-blown anti-Joe Rogan campaign comprising of the entire left-wing media and the established mainstream media, a full-court push on Rogan will not get him removed from Spotify. Also, because Joe Rogan is not exclusive to Spotify anymore, Spotify cannot remove interviews that he does with people that Spotify doesn't like. So even if, say, he has Peterson on again, or Dr. Malone, or somebody like that, yes, Spotify can remove it. The only problem is that you still got it on iTunes, you still got it on SoundCloud, you still got it in a couple of other places. So now Spotify, the limited ability that Spotify had to censor Rogan is gone. It is gone, like completely fucking gone. Again, you're seeing, and I mean, like what Rusin was talking about, you're just seeing this thing just speed up. And what you're seeing, and of course, I can see it clear as day, and I'm actually right smack dab in the middle of it. What you're seeing is you're seeing the globalists lose over and over and over and over and over again. And they can't go to the government. They can't go to the government anymore to try and do shit for them, because the government, because they towed the line with BlackRock and so forth for so long, they've actually damaged their credibility. And the government, the people in government have to answer. I mean, even in city, like even places like Chicago and New York are beginning to get sick of the fucking globe. Like, I mean, it's very clear that their agenda around crime does not fucking work, for instance. That's becoming very obvious about that. But getting back to Rogan, kudos to whoever, and maybe Rogan manages his own business, but his business manager signed a deal with Spotify now and arranged it in such a way that Rogan is now virtually unkillable, right? The only way you're going to be able to stop Rogan now is if you put a bullet in his head, which is a good thing. Not Rogan having a bullet in his head. The fact that Joe Rogan, and this is something that I had noticed because I actually was able to go to the Fringe here in Edmonton for the first time since 2019. And let's not kid ourselves. Half of the plays I saw at the Fringe mentioned Joe Rogan. A couple of the plays mentioned wokeism. Like, this is when I talk to people now, like, for instance, my coworkers are aware of woke content on TV and radio, right? Like, it's not just the crazy fruit. It's not the crazy Fruit Loop out to lunch guys like myself and Rusin that are aware of this now. It's like it's penetrated the vernacular. Like, they've lost, like the globalists have lost the ability to control a narrative. And even going to the government to try to get to put a cap on what's going on, it's not working. And and this is what I was talking about specifically around the Tucker Carlson interview and some of the stuff with Taylor Swift on Topic Zero. The propaganda isn't fooling anyone anymore. Well, it's fooling a certain subset of people, but those people are not the majority. However, the fact that they're not the majority shouldn't really fool and throw anybody off, though, because when we do 359, which we'll probably be doing later this week, Dina Hinshaw is I mean, at one point, Dina Hinshaw had her face splattered all over the old media for saying something that was like completely fucking unhinged. She was just one person, right? But her as a person was likely the person directly responsible for causing. And why should I forget the name of the guy who was premier before Daniel Smith?
Jason Kenney.
Jason, she was the one that got Jason Kenney to do all of that brain dead stuff that he did. That cost him. Not only did it cost him the premiership of Alberta, but it potentially cost him a run as prime minister. And Dina Hinshaw was part of that. You just have to put them in strategic positions. Unfortunately for them, but fortunately for us, they no longer control the means of information distribution, and their attempts to try to get information distribution back, specifically on the internet, isn't working. And now it's taken another shot because Joe Rogan is now, from a metaphorical point of view, in terms of his podcast, unkillable. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rierson. That's great, Rierson. That's phenomenally deep.
Yeah, I know. The fact that Rogan can now go to Rumble if he wants, and if YouTube doesn't like what he has to say, I'm sure he's going to post a link. Well, since YouTube isn't going to like this, go to Rumble. I mean, he was all over the UFC fight in Toronto, and again, giving his opinion of why the fuck should anybody vote for this guy? And apparently Trudeau's kid, Xavier, was actually in attendance, but that's another story. I'm pretty sure that Spotify realized that they don't have as much control over the guy as possible, or as they were hoping for, and realized, okay, we'll sign him on. But then again, there has been the fight within Spotify of the content that Rogan has put out that they didn't like. And now I think it's probably actually the best compromise that the Spotify president had available to him, or CEO, whatever you want to call him, to say to his staff, like, well, if you don't like him, well, guess what, folks? If you don't like him, he's going to go somewhere else. So he stays here. I'm still going to keep you. You're still going to be gainfully employed. And it really will be a case subtly of saying, sit down and shut the fuck up. Because at the end of the day, your opinion doesn't matter. What matters is that he's bringing in the revenue to keep you employed. You don't like it? There's the fucking door. And you can take your crazy artificially dyed hair color, and let's not kid ourselves, folks. Just like those Amazon tree frogs that have those vibrant colors. To tell you they're toxic, the bipedal tree frogs here in North America, or within the first world, are showing themselves as well too. So this is honestly a case of, this was the best case scenario of something that was going to be bad for Spotify, and they just gave up. I think we need to call it for what that is. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that I'm right. So I don't have any more to say on that. So let's move on.
Oh yeah, they've been attempting. I mean, for instance, it was very, very obvious, like when they started going after Rogan about and they started taking stuff out of proportion. And somebody actually, I believe it was the person over at Barstool Sports, noticed that the same person who was editing the Joe Rogan stuff had a very similar style to what he had when somebody was doing an attack piece on him, and he actually went back and found out that it was the same company. So I mean, yeah, they have made some very serious attempts. Joe Rogan has a very strong, has definitely ruffled feathers in the artistic community. It's like, whether you want to admit it or not. I mean, they were able to do it successfully with PewDiePie, where they were able to kind of prevent him from more or less becoming mainstream. But like, they can't do that to Rogan. Rogan has basically bust through the door. Rogan is mainstream. There are going to be series of other people that will come up behind him. Steve Crowder immediately springs to mind, Jordan Peterson, Daily Wire, a few others that are going to start to go through the gap as well. Hopefully, I will also be one of those people. Actually, not hopefully. I'm gonna. My aim is to be one of those people. And it's pretty much game over. My only real concern is, and this is getting big picture here, is, are we dealing with a group of people who want to hold on to power so badly that they will burn the house down just to rule over its ashes rather than peacefully walk away? And with that, let's move on to the next topic, which is the U.S. government bombed Iranian-backed targets in Syria and Iraq. Okay, now, I have to avoid jumping to conclusions here. Because back in the 2000s, what happened after 9/11 is suddenly, immediately right after 9/11, Iraq started getting ideas, and fundamentalist Islamic started agitating in both Syria and Saudi Arabia. The House of Saud was suddenly in serious conflict, and the Iranians started exporting terrorism all over the place. Now, the obvious move from a strategic point of view to send a message to the agitators in Saudi Arabia and Syria, and to let Iran know that it wasn't going to play around, was to basically go into Iraq and basically squelch that military as quickly, and to do it in a very, very specific and blunt style, which is exactly what they did. Problem in the Middle East got solved. Iran started behaving itself because they had several 100,000 U.S. troops sitting on their fucking border. Now, they could export some terrorism into Iraq, and they did, which is why a certain general got killed via a missile strike during the Trump administration. Leftists everywhere started spurging out about that, and I had to remind them that this same leftist general, this same Iranian general, sent a bunch of agitators over to the U.S. embassy in Baghdad, and they tried to fucking storm it. That is an act of war. I explained that to them in language I think even a 6-year-old could understand. They still kept doubling down. I personally don't give a shit. Now, as expected, and this is something that I knew was going to start to happen in 2020, when it was clear that Biden was going to be the president. I said at that time, and Rierson was here when I said it, that the sharks were going to smell blood in the water. And because they smelled blood in the water, they were going to start agitating. And guess what's happened? Hold on a second. Agitation is happening everywhere. You had the situation in Ukraine. You had the situation in now Gaza. You have Iran now going around backing terrorist organizations all over the Middle East. You've got potential issues in the Pacific with China. You've got a potential, what amounts to a literal continent-wide war that's going to happen in Central Africa, because apparently there is billions and billions and billions of dollars, not just of rare earths that are needed to make car batteries for electric cars, but you've also got a huge amount of gold that has been found in reserves in Central Africa. So yeah, there's going to be a proxy war between the US and China in Central Africa to control those resources. So yeah, there's going to be some democracy coming down, and you're seeing Venezuela making noises about invading Guyana, etc., etc., etc. And the U.S. cannot be everywhere all at once, especially when you have half the states backing Texas and some states actually sending down National Guard to the Texas border to support Texas in guarding its border with Mexico. So everybody knows that you are politically divided, you're weak, your allies are weak. You have an unpopular president. You have corruption all over the place. So, yeah, no kidding, Iran is starting to agitate again. So what do you do? And I'm not entirely convinced that this war that started in Israel between Israeli and the thing that's going on on the Gaza Strip, that it didn't just spontaneously happen. There was just a few too many things that went wrong. Some of them are clear and definitive repeats of the Yom Kippur War that happened in the 60s, which I believe Netanyahu was involved in. But it gave the US the perfect, and of course, Iran is sending help to Hamas and whatever in the Gaza Strip. This gave the US the perfect chance to, and this is something, because I mean, there's been rumors floating around for a couple of months now that the Biden administration might start a war with somebody to distract from internal issues. Here's the problem with that, is that because of what's happened in Texas, they can't start a war because they don't have the support of their own population to start it. So they have to make a demonstration of strength. So their demonstration of strength was to go and bomb about 85 targets in Syria and Iraq to target Iranian supported bases and whatever, or training facilities for terrorists. Is it going to work? I don't know. There's some speculation that they are actually going to the window for attacking Iran militarily is now probably, if it's not shut, it's going to close very quickly. If the US is going to start a war somewhere, they need to start it like really quickly, because they have to kind of like build up national will and support for it, which they are not currently doing. Or they're going to have to swing around and start dealing with their domestic situation, which is getting worse by the second. And I mean, it's like, as long as Robert F. Kennedy stays in the presidential race, well, actually, Biden wouldn't win even if RFK was running. But with RFK in there, Trump is in for sure. And this is an attempt to distract from what's going on over here. It's also an attempt to send a message to certain international agitators that the U.S. is still fully prepared and capable of engaging in war if it fucking has to. Which I think despite Biden's incompetence, despite the corruption of the handlers of Biden, who are the people who are actually running the government at this point. They're not completely stupid. They're just like deluded. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Rearson.
Honestly, I didn't really take too much interest in all of this because, as you said, this is going to be employed as a distraction for the breakdown, for my opinion, that Americans, or at least the very least, if not North Americans, are waking up to what the fuck's going on. Now, I can't say for certain as to how this is all going to come down, but I try to be more of a taking the viewpoint from 10,000 feet up, if not higher, 20, 40, 80,000, whatever the case may be. And this is going to be an attempt of the swamp, the deep state, whatever words you want to attribute to them. This is going to be their attempt to don't look over here, look over here. I want you to look overseas for the shit going on and the shit that's going down, because Lord knows I'm responsible for the shit going on in our country. Not Biden, but, and I'm of the opinion that he's no longer alive. I have to actually send you the couple of photos that I think that I saved. But anyway, I'm not worried about this. Just like I said that I was not worried about Biden stealing overnight the the 2020 ice cream stand, shall we say. If this is ever going to go to YouTube. If it isn't, with the powers that be supporting Biden to steal the 2020 election. Now, can I sleep well? I'm sleeping better. Am I really all that worried? No, there are times that it kind of beats me down a little bit. But again, 2024, folks, is going to be an insane year where at some point, I'm not going to speak for Naroki, but with what I'm starting to see happen, not that I'm getting worried, but I'm just kind of going, well, I wasn't quite expecting that. So, for example, earlier tonight with the podcast, the Gina Carano lawsuit with Elon Musk footing the bill. Again, if I was her, I'd rack it up. I would soak it for everything it's worth to embarrass Disney. But that's just me. Now, in terms of this, I've got other things I'm more interested in watching, which is the farmer protest, which is, I'm hoping, starting to gain traction within Canada. I'm sorry for the people that are over there, but I also do believe in soul contracts. And if our old mutual friend from Banff, not him, but her, and you know who I'm talking about, Naroki, Debbie, I think would be able to maybe provide more insight or some additional insight. I don't know, maybe not. And it's I don't care. I'm sorry, folks, but I don't care. I've got my immediate family to worry about. I've got myself. I am working on being prepared for the shift in the financial system. and all of that stuff, that what happens over in the Middle East, it's not in my scope. It's not within my perspective. And for the people that are going to suffer, well, I'm of the opinion that that's what they came into the world for, is to suffer during that period of time. So, am I uncaring? No. Does it do me any good to care? No. So I'm just leaving it alone. And on that lack of thought, I'm gonna throw it back to you, my friend.
Yeah, yeah, it is an attempt to basically just distract. That's pretty much what it is. Yeah, I got nothing more to say on this one. It's an attempt at distraction. There was some speculation in the media that maybe he was going to start, and you can't, again, burn the house down to rule over its ashes rather than walk away. You cannot dismiss that as a possibility with this crowd. You cannot. You just can't. Anyway, the last topic, and we'll probably be on this one for a while. Okay, now I am going to start out. Hold on a second here. I have to mute somebody on Twitter. Yeah. Oh, God, not this idiot again. Sorry, I'm going to mute that idiot as well. Okay, so with this, there is an auto spell function that is on Google, and it also applies to YouTube. Now, about a month before Stefan Molyneux got booted off of YouTube, if you didn't know Stefan Molyneux's exact spelling, YouTube, now what YouTube does is that if you're looking for somebody, YouTube will automatically fill it in after a while. And what happened is, you didn't know how exactly, and Molyneux's got a name that is kind of hard to remember how to spell his last name. And YouTube disabled the auto spell function with Stefan Molyneux. And about a month or two later, he got booted off of YouTube. What happened just a few days ago was, and somebody had noticed this with Molyneux, had noticed that, so all of a sudden the auto spell feature, and let me just see if I can see if it has actually been restored or not. The auto spell function for Jordan Peterson and his daughter. Yep, okay. When you type in Jordan Peterson, it comes up right away now. The auto spell function for Jordan Peterson and his daughter, you couldn't get them. The auto spell function wouldn't work for them. You actually had to know how to spell out the entire name to know how to get to it. Somebody just post something. Somebody just say something here. Oh, well, I'll have to take a look at it on my phone. So
it's on PSEC.
Okay, I will take a look at that later. The whole situation is this. I mean, it was very clear that they were trying to angle to get rid of Peterson. Here's the thing. YouTube is not the only game in town anymore. I found this out when I found out about what they were trying to do with Louis Rossmann. Is that you can no longer link up your videos. They basically, if you download to YouTube, it will not automatically upload your content to Rumble anymore. Like, that feature is gone. It has also been removed with Odyssey as well, apparently, because the only place where, and I load up content onto YouTube, now the only place it'll appear now is BitChute. I've tried doing it with MGTOW TV, but I can't quite get it to work properly. I'm sure at some point Brighteon is going to be doing it. Well, here's the thing, though, and this is something that you've heard me talk about quite frequently on this. YouTube's ability to control the narrative is just disappearing at a very, very, very rapid rate. The only thing is that it wasn't Jordan Peterson who discovered this. It was Michaela Peterson. The video that I saw, Michaela Peterson, like, what the hell did I do? Right? The moment it got discovered and some noise was made, it was restored, but it was very, very clear what YouTube was attempting to do here. And it was angling to get Jordan Peterson booted off of YouTube, which kind of suggests to me that somebody in the next month or two I'm sort of halfway expecting that there's going to be some sort of mainstream media collective run at Jordan Peterson to justify removing him from YouTube. That would be the only thing, because that's exactly what happened with Molyneux. They did this full court press, and they did this whole smear campaign on Molyneux, and then they removed him. That's the same thing YouTube's doing. Now, here's the thing, though. YouTube is not the only game in town anymore. And much like, Google had to lay off a whole shitload of people here at the start of the year, as did YouTube. They're hurting. They're hurting for money. They're losing support. Basically, the only thing right now that's keeping YouTube afloat is that even the people who could post up over at Rumble will still post up at YouTube for now. And some of the other platforms like Brighteon is doing just fine. I thought Brighteon was going to fold. It didn't. Odyssey basically threw in the towel, but BitChute is still up. MGTOW TV is still growing at an exponential rate. I mean, even people who absolutely despise MGTOW are now posting up at MGTOW TV. And by the way, Rusin, if you don't have an account at MGTOW TV, you need to get one. Just saying.
Oh, okay. Okay, fair enough.
By the way, are you on Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute and Brighteon?
I'm only on Rumble.
Would you need Odyssey, BitChute, and MGTOW TV and Brighteon?
I've got Odyssey, but I haven't logged in a dog's year. I don't know. That's all I can remember.
Well, we can talk about that at some point, but yeah, you need to start getting. You definitely need to get a MGTOW TV channel for sure, But I mean, it's getting to the point now where, and this is why they've been trying to expand the internet censorship rules, because YouTube is slowly, and it's something, and this when we get to the Louis Rossmann thing, I will point this out, is slowly losing money. And they're desperately, like, all of the stuff they did last year circled around was designed to try to max out their revenues, specifically this bullshit they pulled around the ads. Hold on a second. All right, I had to let go of a ripper of a fart. I didn't want that on the radio, on the podcast.
If you're gonna say that, you might as well just let it rip. Just saying. Anyway.
Oh, it's bad enough that I have to smell it. I don't want everybody to hear it as well.
Folks, no fucks given. Absolutely no fucking standards.
How many standards do we have? We have none.
Well, we got half of a standard, half of one standard, but that's about it. Anyway.
Anyway, so the whole thing with this is that, I mean, it's very clear, and I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if there was some type of a mainstream media run at Peterson at some point, because they have to get rid of Peterson. They have to start dumping a whole bunch of people off of YouTube. Here's the thing, dumping them off YouTube, and this is something that Tim Pool told Jack Dorsey years ago. You know, you're not shutting anybody up by booting them off your platform. As it turns out, Jack, even though they told Jack Dorsey, and even though Vijaya Gotti was like sitting in the same fucking room with Tim Pool when he said that, it just went right over their heads. And now Vijaya Gotti is no longer even, and she got her shit ripped in Congress. And Jack Dorsey is no longer relevant. But I mean, again, Susan Wojcicki has been told repeatedly, over and over and over again, you're not shutting anyone up if you boot them off of YouTube. And what do they keep doing? They keep booting people off of YouTube. You know, like for instance, right, my YouTube channel. Like, I don't promote my YouTube channel. Like, I can't be bothered. I somehow have managed to gain 10 subs. I don't know how the fuck I've managed to gain 10 subs, but I did. The whole situation is that, I mean, if my YouTube channel got shut down tomorrow, it wouldn't be a significant hit, because I was only using the YouTube channel for ease of uploading to other media sites. But if YouTube is going to disable that function, then why the fuck am I loading up at YouTube at all? And there has been an exodus of people leaving YouTube. Not only that, but the people who are still posting up at YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, MGTOW TV, etc., 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 they are starting to go back to YouTube. And what they're saying to the people who are still at YouTube is, why the fuck are you not posting up at these alt platforms? Oh, well, there's no money. Like, okay, great. So you're concerned about money. All right. Well, I mean, the more people who jump over to Rumble, the higher the revenues get at Rumble. Right? Like, I don't know. YouTube's in trouble. That is very clear. And they keep doing the same stupid, insane shit, like trying to censor Jordan Peterson and trying to bury content. And I mean, it's like with me, for instance. Hold on. You know, they get sick and tired of it, and they leave, right? And you don't bother coming back, right? It's like, unless YouTube undergoes even serious reformation, I am not interested in ever having YouTube as my main platform anymore. I mean, I'll watch stuff on it. They still got some really good documentaries and shit, but I mean, it's not my main platform anymore. In fact, even with a lot of interesting stuff that I find on YouTube, like, what I will do is I will download it and then I will post it up at one of the alt tech channels, and I will watch it there so that YouTube doesn't get the fucking revenue. That's just me. Now, on the Louis Rossmann thing, and Kelso got into the potential of the GreyJay app at the start of the year. The GreyJay app is an absolute game changer. Period. End of story. It ends the YouTube monopoly straight up. It democratizes who you're going to look at and who you don't want to look at. It's an app that when I finally get down to Calgary again, I'm probably going to have to talk to you about putting on my phone. But it's, the great, but I mean, again, right? what YouTube did to Rumble is what they basically accused Rossmann of using proprietary software that YouTube owns the rights to in order to connect its app to their services. The only problem is that Rossmann is enough of the business person and enough of the developer to realize that YouTube and YouTube has done this before. So Rossmann designed his app so that didn't happen. So when YouTube sent him a threatening letter, Rossmann just basically went on YouTube, put a camera in front, read the letter verbatim on his YouTube channel, threw the letter down, looked at YouTube and says, you know what, you want to go there? Let's go there. You know, like, you think I'm being an annoyance now? Just think of how much of an annoyance I'm going to be when I have 3 additional zeros in my bank balance. Because that's where it's going to go. You want to come after me? Just fucking. He didn't say just fucking try it, because that's not what Rossmann would do. But go ahead, try it. Got praised to the hilt, and YouTube's bluff got called. Now, if enough other content producers start doing the same thing, and they realize that they can basically go anywhere, and thanks to the GreyJay app, they can be followed from anywhere. And this is what Kelso was talking about. YouTube's monopoly is effectively dead, which is why YouTube wants Rumble out of the way, which is why they're being antagonistic. I respect Jeremy Hambling, but he says stuff in a way where it's very, very clear that he's still about the money. And he won't say stuff like the GreyJay app. And he won't say stuff like MGTOW. Like, he will code it in other, or he won't say stuff like Hitler, right? Like, won't say that word, because he'll get demonetized, because the money is very important to him. I personally don't give a shit, right? Because YouTube is not my main platform, right? Like, I will happily call Carlos Maza a lispy fucking queer, and I don't really give a shit if YouTube takes the fucking video down. I don't. And that's the thing, right? As more independent producers on YouTube start to figure this out, and they realize that even if YouTube boots them off of YouTube, thanks to the GreyJay app, they can still follow said creator at an alt platform. And they don't even necessarily have to have an account there. Or at least, I don't know. I haven't used the GreyJay app. Maybe when Rearson gets around to saying about it, maybe he's got a little bit more experience with it. But yeah, bird's eye view, 1,000-foot view, looking down on YouTube. YouTube is looking like it's definitely circling the drain. And they did it to themselves. And Rearson, let's take this show out.
I would like to say that I give a shit on this one, but I don't. I mean, it's really not all that terribly surprising. YouTube gets caught by Jordan Peterson bearing his name in the autofill function. I actually did 2 experiments. First one was on Brave, and I typed in Jordan Peterson, and he came up right away. I think I got as far as Jorda, and then Peterson was right up at the top. I went over to Chrome, and Peterson, when I typed in Jordan, I came up as number 2. Excuse me. So he's not, pardon me. He's not currently buried. But when I type in Jordan, I'm expecting Peterson to be at the top of the list. Sorry to whoever the other individual is. Don't know it from the hole in the ground. Don't give a shit. But I don't give a shit. I really don't. And considering the amount of traffic that Jordan Peterson brings to YouTube, sure, whatever. But I mean, it's potentially more ad revenue and the whole freaking bit. But just like Disney, they'll burn the ship. They'll burn the ship into the water until there's nothing left except whatever isn't burned, and will float down or sink to the bottom. Sorry. As for the GreyJay app, I'll admit, man, I don't do anything with it. There's enough on my plate, or so I keep telling myself. And the GreyJay app is on green number 4 when I swipe up and I swipe to the left. It's there, but I haven't done anything with it, and I haven't made any attempt to actually do anything with it. So perhaps when we meet up, the two of us can fuck around with the app and see what's going on and figure it out. But not to dissuade Rossmann from his creation, because I mean, at some point, someone was going to crack the code, shall we say, and to produce something like that. He just happened to be kind of, well, he became the first person that we became aware of. Can't say for certain, but I'm just saying. So I'm not, as I said, honestly, I've got other things on my mind right now, and the GreyJay app, while it is a wonderful idea, and I think it'll be perfect for reasons X, Y, or Z, not Z, but Z, I don't really care. I'm sorry to say that, folks, but I really, honestly, I don't care. There's only so much that can capture my attention. And if I was 20 years younger, 30 years younger, perhaps I'd be all over it. But as I'm getting older in the years, there's Sonny, you know, I have to pick and choose my battles. And the GreyJay app is not it. But with YouTube doing YouTube, Google, Alphabet, whatever, having shot their load all over this, I don't really care. Like, I really honestly don't care. Something is going, you can only stay at the top for so long and then you slip. I mean, Microsoft for the longest time was at the top. Apple was at the top. It's not to say that they're not. Like, they're still up there, the top, but then, you know, the top 5 tech companies, whatever. But, you know, after Steve Jobs had passed on, Apple's marketing, the Apple corporate press conferences, the presentations, whatever the fuck you want to call it, it's just well, in my mind, it's faded into obscurity because I never cared for Apple, and that's just my personal bias, which I admit. But it doesn't garner the interest anymore. Like, whatever the creative drive that Apple had died with Jobs. YouTube is a dying platform. YouTube, my opinion is that YouTube is a dead platform. They just don't know it yet. So, fuck, whatever. at some point the unassailable cliff that was defending Quebec City way back when with Battle on the Plains of Abraham, the French were caught flat-footed by the British when they came in and scaled the cliff walls of the cliff wall. And there was no defense for that because they were expecting it to be attacked from the front, not from the back. So to me, that unto itself is all that there is to say about it. So yeah, I don't care. Like, I really honestly, I don't care. This is not on my radar, and it's not going to be on my radar, and I'll leave it for someone else to tackle and to bring down. Will GreyJay take some time for it to gain popularity? Yeah, possibly. I mean, after the latest stunt that's on YouTube or Rumble or Odyssey or BitChute or wherever, will it gain more interest, or shall we say notoriety? Possibly. Quite likely, actually. But is it going to affect me with all of that? No, not at the end of the day. So, folks, if you're interested in GreyJay, go for it. Take a look at it. If you haven't already, will I? Yeah, eventually, but just now is not the time. So, and that's all I got to say. That's all I've got for now. So, let's wrap this up, my friend, and we'll talk in a few days.
Yep, the situation. Well, yeah, GreyJay's done this to themselves. I mean, sorry, YouTube has done this to themselves. They had their chance. They took the easy way out. They took the easy corporate money. I mean, at the time I really couldn't blame them because when this first started happening, I really hadn't heard of BlackRock. But now that I have heard of BlackRock, and now that, like, these people are obviously there's at this point, given the level of willful ignorance that of ignorance that I've seen on this, and I'm starting to think it's not so ignorant. I mean, Kathleen Kennedy in a normal, sane company would have been fucking fired, right? There's only one excuse why at this point, the just like what had happened with Amber Heard with Warner Brothers, there's a couple people on the board, and they're probably fairly high up, that are blocking her being fired, right? And you're just seeing this, and you're seeing this with, like, Wujia Key has just made stupid decision after, and she bought it. They took the easy corporate money, but the easy corporate money isn't there anymore, and they could continue to do what they were doing. They could lose money on their stock value because Google was there to back them up. But to quote Raging Golden Eagle, right, Google is going to be in the same pickle that Disney is currently in within another year or two. Google is going to make a really serious fucking mistake. They're going to insert themselves in somewhere, and they're going to get caught. And even though they are the biggest search engine around, it's basically going to be the beginning of the end for them. Just like when Disney decided to insert themselves into what was going on in Florida, they could have stayed quiet about that. And then, like, changing the movie Lightyear around to own Ron DeSantis had to be one of the stupidest fucking decisions that I've ever seen anybody make in terms of a corporate decision. I mean, Lightyear was not that bad of a movie. It was maybe a little bit social messagey, but it wasn't that bad. But I mean, and I did actually go see Lightyear. I didn't go see Elemental, though. Just because I'm just sick. I mean, and Bruceson knows this, I'm a guy who will literally go see anything. But I tell people now, when I'm when I'm in camp, like the only time I watch TV is when I'm sitting in the dining hall at lunchtime or dinner time. Like, I'm on my third rotation out here. I have not turned the TV on in my room once. I have spent multiple hours though looking at content, and yet at this point it's still YouTube. But the reason why it is still YouTube is because, one, I'm just kind of used to it, and two, the documentaries that I like to watch are all still on YouTube. They haven't moved over to Rumble. They haven't moved over to BitChute. They haven't moved over to Odyssey yet. As it becomes very clear that YouTube is beginning to lose its grip, as people start to figure out that there's options to YouTube, and for instance, that they are going to get at least some support on Rumble. If they post up at Rumble, they're going to start going over there, right? Like, you're going to start seeing documentaries, and you're going to start seeing other like content producers, like how to build a patio and videos like that. They're going to start posting that stuff up at Rumble and Odyssey and BitChute and Brighteon eventually. And the reason why they're doing it is because, and it's going to be a shift. One day it's going to be, people are just going to wake up one day and suddenly realize, hey, why don't I just post my stuff up? And it's starting to happen, right? It's happening in a little bit of a trickle, but it's just like the manosphere, right? That's how the manosphere got started. Or that's how, for instance, MGTOW got started. MGTOW got started by 6 guys meeting in a bar in Asheville, North Carolina, shortly after the Duke Lacrosse incident. And from 6 people, it's now developed into an organization. Well, I won't say it's an organization, but it's developed into a philosophy with followers in excess of 1 million. And it's worldwide. It's in every single country. In like 15, 16 years it took for it to get there, with nobody actually evangelizing. And that's exactly what's going to happen. People are just going to start waking up one day, and they're going to go, and they're going to have some other content producer go, it's like, and I talk to people about this all the time, like, why do you not have a Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute account? Why do you not have a Brighteon account? Why are you not on why are you just on Facebook? Like, why are you not on Minds? Why are you not on MeWe? Why are you not on Gab? You got to be on there. If you're running, especially if you're doing it online, if you're running an online business, you got to be everywhere. Right? Okay. Yeah. Some platforms are more friendlier to some content than others. Right? But it all depends. Right? So I'm just going to throw this out there to anybody who is actually listening to this on YouTube. Why are you not on Odyssey, BitChute, Rumble, Gab TV, MGTOW TV, Censored TV? Why are you not on those alt platforms? That's a serious question. And with that, thank you all very much for listening tonight. I'm not going to keep talking just for the sake of hearing my own voice. And my ego might be big, but it's not that big. So thank you all very much for listening.